So then, Pipsqueak, ready to get your ass kicked? Glira chuckled, as her crew set about adjusting her nets. Jarek looking down to Tom and Saf pleadingly. It had been a busy few days of packing supplies and getting the Deriva Keep folks sent home. Saf had kept busy helping plan for winter, as well as getting the keep back in order after the festival. It had been a few days, but they had finally gotten around to Glira and Jarex's little hunting competition. Much to her surprise, though, Jarex actually seemed to be less than confident, rather unlike his usual self. You sure we can't convince Tom to let us use the 50? Yep, Saf replied, as she was looking over her own gear, getting a little tired of answering that question. Tom had conceded to let him actually bring it after a lot of arguing concerning several points of varying credibility, ranging from getting used to flying with it, what to do if the keep came under siege while they were gone, and needing the extra handholds for the Huntresses. The dragon just grumbled a bit, swinging his head in under his chest to look at Zarko, who was herself hanging by her feet from his harness and working on Jarex's own net. Glira might have more nets, but Jarex was the more experienced at using them for hunting by now, so their contests were boiled down to Jarex's hunting skill to compensate. It was all about head count after all. Staring at me won't make it go faster, the lieutenant grumbled as Jarex just kept staring at her. Hey Zarko, how much to lead him astray just a little? Glira asked with a chuckle, as her own crew finished prepping for takeoff. You think I'm for sale? The lieutenant replied, not looking away from her work, her back turned to the older blue. No, never. I just think it could be funny, since I'm guessing he still hasn't learned to navigate by himself yet. Hey, I can find my way to the forest and back no problem, Jarex protested. Saf just shook her head a little. The guy had the sense of direction of a weather vane in a winter storm. That much she had learned by now. He had Zarko, though, so she doubted their party was getting lost today, even if the autumn weather decided to ruffle their wings a little. Sure, and how many trips has that taken? A few, Jarex countered, not terribly convincingly. What about it, old woman? Need to send me astray to have a chance? In that case, I could just give you a head start. You'd better shut it, or Tom is going to need a new dragon here, Glira chuckled, with just a hint of a snarl to her tone. Jarex clearly not being impressed by her antics. Oh really? And who might that be then? Tiguan? Me, you overgrown lizard! I can do anything you can but better, Glira snapped, though still wearing a smile. For the small cost of eating 3 times as much and being completely insufferable, Jarex countered, confidence clearly growing again. You would hate him if he got his claws into you. He doesn't even have claws, Glira dismissed, not seeming worried in the slightest. You do know this is Miss Martin Keep and not Handsome Keep, right? Saf questioned, looking between the two of them. He hasn't bought the place yet. Well, maybe that's how I prove my worth then, Glira all but laughed evilly. I think I could afford the place if I wanted. I doubt it's for sale, Saf clarified, not sounding terribly respectful. Glira just smirked though. Anything is for sale for the right price. You're not that rich, Mum, and I doubt Dad is up for giving you finance, Jarex interrupted. Glira letting out an annoyed grunt, looking back to Colk. Ready for takeoff? Ready when you are, the healer confirmed, looking back to the 3 Huntresses they were bringing. She would be Glira's officer for the day. Colk hadn't wanted to go, but the Major apparently had stuff to do with the keep, and she was Glira's second highest ranking officer. Saf guessed the Major's schedule conflict had something to do with why Lincosta was still at the keep rather than down below. Well, aside from trying to figure out how to get Tink balanced again. Saf would put more money on Tom's patience with the mines having run out, or perhaps he had another scheme in the works. It was hard to tell these days. According to Jackie, Tom had been rather conflicted on the whole situation with Tink. Sure, the inventor should live, at least by the sound of it. Lincosta had assured them it would go away eventually, but for now the inventor had a tendency to start floating off, or all of a sudden weighing much more, which had proven nearly catastrophic when he had been experimenting with floating through the air just using the wind to move him along. Further testing had been restricted to only a few feet off the ground. For now, though, it was all about their little competition. That served Saf just fine too. It was going to be her, Jackie and Foe helping Jarex, with Essie, Fengi and Bo making up Glira's hunting party. Essie was in charge of the other group's hunt, or at least pretending to be in charge, as Glira decided what she wanted them to do. She had made it very clear when they had proposed their little idea that she would be in charge, especially once she found out the Major wasn't coming. It was hardly a surprise though. That was more or less how it had worked up to this point if Glira had been on a hunt. The main difference now was that she was technically hunting for the keep rather than just the combat wing, and the people down in the case below, which was more than enough reason to humour her for the day. Glira smirked at Jax as she took off running. Don't worry, I won't wait for you, she laughed out as she ran, eventually kicking off into the air. Sometimes I really hate that woman, Jarex pouted, looking back to Zarko. We about done yet? Just about. Don't want them coming off early, Zaka replied as she tightened down the release knots. Well, hurry it up. She'll be insufferable if we lose this. Where's Redexi? Said he needed to grab something, Zarko snarled, clearly quite tired of getting shouted at, as Foe tried to help, getting told off once more. No, you don't touch anything. I've seen the knots you make. Just trying to help, Foe pouted, crossing her arms and looking rather offended as she walked back a few steps to watch. What are we aiming for today? Jackie questioned from Jarex's back, where she was busy securing the 50 cal one more time. Saf had no doubt that didn't need doing, but they were waiting on Zarko to finish anyway. As long as it's quick and easy, it's fair game, Saf replied with a shrug. So, like you with a drink night? Jackie laughed. Saf decided against providing Jackie with a rebuttal, instead just sighing before continuing. We are going for head count here, not amount of meat. Jackie didn't even attempt to hold in her laughter as Saf cursed herself as she realised what she had said. I think you could have phrased that one better, Jarex added, clearly trying hard not to join Jackie, who sounded like she was in danger of falling off from sheer laughing. She quickly shut up, then, when she caught sight of Redexi, was trotting down the stairs. Sweet, did you get it? Yeah, I got it, the young man replied, clambering up Jarex and handing a satchel to Jackie. Do I even want to know what's in there? Saf sighed. Shotgun shells. We are going bird hunting, Jackie replied with an evil grin. I thought we were going to try and net a large herd of deer, Jarex questioned, swinging his head back to look at Jackie. You shall, but we three are going to blow some ducks and geese out of the sky. It's migration season after all, and they'll be flying high and in groups, Jackalope replied, as she drew one of the guns from the modified holsters on Jarex's harness, checking if the weapon was clear. And how did you get your hands on the satchel shotgun shells? Saf questioned. Jarex did have some rounds on board as his ready ammo, as Tom had called it, but there was clearly a lot more than that in Jackie's new favourite handbag. Saf wasn't even sure she wanted to know the answer. She certainly had nothing against getting to try their new weapons on something aside from static targets. Battle practice. A duck, goose, or whatever tries to get away, and we have to shoot the bugger. Jackie smirked, as she retrieved a bandolier of the shells from the satchel. Is that one of Tom's belts? Fo questioned with evident envy in her voice. Damn right it is, Jackie replied with a snigger as she put the belt on. Lucky you. I want a guy like that too. We both know he's definitely the lucky one in our relationship, Jackie chuckled, doing her best to look imposing, which wasn't hard standing next to a machine gun with a shotgun in her hand. Sure, Fo replied, looking very jealous. Got more than just your own belt in there. Yep, yours are a more personal glue, Jackie snickered, throwing down the leather bandolier for Fo and getting out a third one. Heads up, Saf. Saf caught the belt and put it on, looking to Jarex. So, what do you think of our chances now? The dragon just pulled a crooked smile. Right, there we go. All aboard. Let's get our asses in the air. Now don't burn yourself out trying to catch her. We'll be out here for hours, Zarko went rather sternly, as she clambered around on his back, not dropping off the harness as the dragon sighed. And I can fly for a day if I have to. I'll take the lead. You sit close, he ordered, lining up for a good run-up between two of the new fields. Redexi jumped on just as Jarex set off, the young man hanging on to the 50. Saf and the other Huntresses got airborne onto their own power for now, letting Jarex lead the formation. It hadn't taken very long before Jarex had ordered the three of them aboard though, seemingly not happy with the speed they were making, even with him breaking the wind for them. Saf joined Redexi in hanging onto the machine gun as it sat locked in his mount, providing an excellent handhold. Fo being, well, Fo, decided grabbing onto the dragon's tail was an excellent idea, cheering as she bobbed up and down with every beat of Jarex's wings. It certainly spoke to Jarex's determination to win that he didn't even complain as they picked up speed, heading for the blue shape quite some ways ahead of them by now. Let's not ruin the surprise. We don't want them to see the guns or really hear us so we can get away with it. Let's hunt a bit further south. Been a while since we've been there, Saf shouted out as they flew. That's quite a lot further, Zarko noted, looking back to Saf with an unsure expression. Yeah, but I think it would be worth it, and we won't be flying into the wind when we're going home with a full load, hopefully. Not a bad idea. Jarex, come right. 35 degrees. That's a 10th turn, right? The Jarex questioned, hesitating on the manoeuvre. Something like that. Understood. Right, 35 degrees. 36 degrees, Jackie shouted out, prompting looks from both Zarko and Redexi. It would be 36 degrees for a 10th turn, just saying. Well, 36.5. No, you muppet, that's for days of the year. Remember, he thinks there are 365 days in a year. Saf shouted out, shaking their heads, smiling wide. Good old Jackie? Fuck, right, yeah, 36 degrees, Jackie corrected with a shrug. Fine, 36-degree right turn, Jax responded, executing the turn. What would 35 degrees be in fractions? Fo questioned from her precarious position as she held on tight. I don't know, Jackie admitted, after clearly trying hard. This is so confusing, Jax protested as they changed direction. Stop complaining. It was you he managed to convince into using these degrees, Zaka replied as she scouted ahead. And you were the one that didn't talk me out of it. He said it was good for calling out shots and the like. We already called out shots the old way. But now only you would know what you are saying, Jackie added enthusiastically. Also, are we there yet? Damn it, Jackie. You want me to make sheets how large? Shiva had questioned, clearly not impressed. She glared at Tom and Tink, who, despite their best efforts, were looking like kids asking permission to go outside. I mean, we could make several plates and then rivet them together, and you are a platesmith, right? Tom tried, hoping he might be able to capitalize on the smith's pride. I am an armorsmith, as in plate armor. And correct me if I'm wrong, but your plan is to fling this thing at the enemy, resulting in a fiery explosion? She replied, her demeanor turning even darker. You remember when I promised you to make that cannon way back? Tom tried, still hopeful. Yes? Well, this is going to be even more powerful than any cannon we could realistically make. Hell, using this on the dragon would probably be a waste, actually. Good chance of it being the biggest explosion this world has seen in decades. No, a Bliss gel storage facility blew up a few years ago. Roof tiles were raining all over the city for minutes afterwards. Killed a few people. They no longer use roof tiles, Tink interjected before clearing his throat, looking away as Shiva stared at Tom accusingly. We just use wood and dirt, should be fine. She stared at him for a few seconds, leaning forwards as if she was trying to peer through him before straightening back up. I see. You want this for killing these massive steel behemoths that apparently tread the skies? Or at least did once? Yes, Tom replied, confident he could see the cracks in Shiva's facade. Yeah, you know you want a big boom too. And that would be so much work for something that's a one-and-done thing, Shiva protested, clearly reluctant. I know, and really, we are going to need more than one, Tom replied, trying not to sound defeated. Shiva rubbed her face with one hand, clearly not happy to hear that either. Alternatively, we are going to have to start rolling plates. I think I saw pictures of that in your book, Shiva replied with a knowing nod. Tom raising an eyebrow. What? I can look at the pictures. Yes! It's either that or the huge hammer! Tink added. The inventor currently being grounded, though there was no telling when that might change. Huge hammer? Shiva echoed, clearly also interested now. I think that's a power hammer, and yeah, that would be handy too, as would a million other things. Might look into making some rollers though, Tom admitted, doing his best to do the mental math on how long that would take. Those are a thing, you know, for rolling out soft metal plates. Copper, silver, and the like, Tink added with a shrug. Yes, but we need to roll steel into a thin plate. That means hot rolling. Easier said than done, but not impossible. Either that, or we could use copper or brass plate, but that would be fucking expensive. Tom, help me out here. Should I be happy or worried you are looking to make more machines? Where are we even going to put it? Shiva questioned, with a rather tired-looking expression on her face. I don't know. How many more shotgun barrels would you like to hand-forge? Tom retorted with a shrug, as he was rubbing his chin. Not that you aren't amazing at it. I don't have a hope in hell of doing that good of a job. No, because you can't smith to save your life, Shiva replied with a cocky, if still tired-looking smile. Yeah. Still, if we need bigger plates, and thin ones at that, this is a smart way of doing it, at least in the long run. Fine. Back to your drawing dungeon, you two. I'll get back to smelting down the scrap we got from Deriva, Shiva replied, hefting a large hammer over her shoulder, and walking back to her forge to kick in the wind-powered bellows to get it hot enough. Well, don't just stand there. Get to work with your next miracle machine, she scolded, as she started poking the coals, Tom eyeing some of the pieces of armor plate in the sack of the floor. Then the bell rang. Oh, son of a chalk-powdered whore! Shiva shouted out. She punched the lever back into place, put down the hammer, and turned back to them with a sigh. Let's go see what has them scared this time. Probably Arch or one of those friends he promised would be swinging by. Would be about damn time. Yes, ma'am, the two guys just asked in unison, nodding. Well, Saf should have seen this coming. They are three of the most competitive people at the Keep, currently engaged in a competition with another team, but of course that will lead to competition within the team too. Foe was reckless and took chances to try and keep up, and she burned more ammunition to do so. Jackie was the fastest in a straight line and a scarily good shot with her new gun, and Saf was really wishing they were hunting down in the forest below, or that she could guide these damn shots. They were just too fast to even see as they shot out at the target. Plus side though was that once the formation of geese started taking shotgun fire, they broke up and started flying around like mad, doing whatever it took to shade their pursuer. Just the kind of flying she absolutely loved. Tight turns, steep dives, and hard climbs all in quick succession. She had missed a lot of shots to start with, but she had started a down burst relatively quickly, and she had to give it to Jackie. This was top-notch target practice, that was for sure. and with mostly clear skies, they could easily tell if they had a clear shot behind the target to avoid accidentally ringing each other. It was a good sport too, and she latched onto one of the few ducks up here today, getting closer and closer with every bit of straight flying. Unlike Jackie, she could even just about stay in a turn with the little panicked and furiously squawking bird. And when the range was finally close enough, one squeeze of the trigger was all it took as a sharp push hit her shoulder, sending the deadly cloud of metal out ahead of her in a narrow cone. The poor target received an unwelcome present up the ass as it let out its final squawk, tumbling towards the ground. It was an easy enough thing to catch though. The trick was not throwing away any more altitude than you needed to. That was yet another good reason to get as close as possible before pulling the trigger, aside from saving on the precious ammunition. They certainly needed it today, as the air was thick with geese, even if they had been expecting a lot more ducks. There were so many, in fact, that Jokes had ditched the idea to hunt deer for the day, instead just acting as an aerial perch for them. Zarko and Redexi worked overtime to stow and secure all the birds the 3 Huntresses brought back in, while Jokes did his best to try and catch them with his net. He did actually get a few, much to Sapphire's surprise, though it wasn't many. It certainly brightened his mood though. The amount of kills they were piling up had him downright giddy about their chances of winning today. "The hell are we even going to do with all these?" Zarko questioned, as Saf came back with another 4, 2 dangling from her belt and 1 clutched in each foot. "I have no idea, but we're having goose tonight, that's for sure," she laughed, as she sat down for a quick breather. "There's too many to even pick from." "And they are too dumb to run away," Jokes laughed out, as he scanned around for the next flock. "They are damn fast, though," Saf countered, taking deep breaths to try and recover as quickly as possible. "No, the Silverstreak Rayland is just a little slow." "Is that so? Tell you what, I'll listen to your opinion when you have a title of your own," Saf chuckled, stretching out on his back and folding up her wings. "Oh, that's a good one," the dragon replied, seemingly pondering the proposition for a few seconds. "What about Nightwing or something like that? You know, after I killed 2 night terrors at night? Terror's a bit much, I think." "And the first one wasn't?" Saf questioned, trying not to chuckle too much. "What about the oxen? You certainly murdered those fields," Zarko smirked as she crawled down under Jaux's belly with Sapphire's kills. "Or clothesline," Redexi added, as he got out some more shells to replace the ones Saf had spent. She damn near burst out laughing at that one. "Careful, or I'll hang you out to dry," the dragon chuckled down in good spirits, Saf gorging his tone as slightly hurt but unwilling to show it. "Oh, but think of Ray, she'll be so happy," Saf got out, still trying not to laugh. "No, because unlike you, she is very considerate and knows I would not like to be called Jaux the Clothesline for the rest of my days," the dragon replied, still in good humour. "Fine. Jackie would probably call you the gun platform or something like that." "Hey, what about those planes from the movies? Mustangs," Redexi added, after he got back to his post as he looked out. "Mustang," the dragon replied, mulling over the word a few times. "That could work. No one would have a clue what it means, though." "No, because Jaux is a treasure trove of hidden meanings, right?" Zarko questioned from down below. She sounded quite amused, too. "That is a name, not a nickname. There is a difference, Grumpy." "I bet Glira lost a bet or something," Redexi added, sounding quite amused. "Look who's talking, Redexi. You sound like you were named after some novel type of weather gauge." "Hey, behave, big guy. I could take your head off with this thing," Redexi replied, patting the side of the machine gun. "I could take you hostage and have you do whatever I want." "No, that's a high-ranking officer with a power trip, not a private in an outflanked position," Saf interjected, trying to get included. Yeah, how long do we plan on being out here anyway? Weren't we supposed to be back by midday?" Jace grumbled, seemingly not quite happy with this. "I think we can get in one more run, then we are heading for home. Maybe shoot for Saf if she gets moving," Zarko replied, looking at the sun. "Better make it count then," Saf sighed, getting up from her comfy position. "Yeah, go get him. For me, or something," Jags added, looking back at her. "Sure thing, Mustang. Now you just need 5 more machine guns and to not be so spindly." "Hey, I'm lean, not spindly," the dragon protested, as Saf turned to face upwind, folding her wings out. "Yeah, and I'm fat," Saf laughed, kicking back off into the air. "Well, look at it on the bright side. We got the door shut in time," Heron shrugged, not seemingly terribly worried by the situation. Either that, or he just hadn't woken up from his midday nap yet, impressive as that might sound. Then again, the poor guy had been the night guard for the previous night, so they should probably cut him a little slack. "We have 2 dragons outside, a nasty-looking black and a young red above us, and you think a damn door is going to help much?" Ochuk snapped to the young guard before looking at the ceiling, seeming to mutter a small prayer or something. Well, more than if it was open. Ochuk looked like he just wanted to punch either Heron or himself right now, but luckily for both of them, they had more pressing matters to attend to, namely the aforementioned 2 dragons coming knocking at their door. They had spotted the two dragons incoming quite a ways out. Both had been flying flags identifying them as traders. Luckily for them, Rachuk had been the one on watch. The guy's paranoia meaning he had kept a close eye on them all the way in with the binoculars Tom had handed over a while back. The two of them had been carrying an excessive amount of crew and seemingly next to no cargo. Nanoka thought that made it pretty good sense if they were expecting to simply buy the expensive sugar and transport it back. What hadn't been so easy to explain, though, was when the black came into land while the red stayed high in the sky. The cry of "Brigands!" rang out from the watchtower above. It had been a mad scramble to get the doors shut and barred before the brigands made it in. They were not even going to attempt to intercept them, that was for sure. Not that they had the time, even if they wanted to try. When Tom had made it back to the greeting hall half geared up, the Black Dragon had already touched down outside. Rachuk currently busy organising what they had. Dakota and Waperna were busy getting the Nook dressed for battle, and the Major was inspecting his troops, considering what Glira had left behind. "Why haven't they attacked yet?" Tom questioned, as he did up a pauldron, half running over. "They are brigands, not Darklings. They don't want to fight, they just want money and valuables." "Okay, so we stall them or make it not worth their time?" "Something like that," Rachuk replied, seemingly stepping back into deep thought. "So we shoot them," Tom shrugged, running the action on his rifle. "They don't know what a gun is. That should see them off. Maybe a grenade or two for good measure." "They have a red above us. Do you not know a threat when you see one?" Rachuk snapped back at him. "If you manage to hurt them, they will burn this place to the ground to send a message. No, we buy time and wait for Glira and Jaux to get back. No way they are staying in the face of a fair fight. Then when they run, you can shoot all you want. With some luck, you might convince them not to take the time to burn our home down. For now, we need a silver tongue and a lot of good excuses." "Where's Fengi when you need her?" Heron sighed, looking around the room. Rachuk just looked at him rather unimpressed before saying, "Look, you numbskull." "Ah, that works too, I guess." "She's still getting into our armor, though," Kakashi interrupted. "Which is why I'm going to do some stalling." "You sure that's a good idea?" Anchor questioned, clearly more than a little skeptical. "What about the Major?" "No, but we are a little short on options. You secure the lower door." Rachuk dismissed his second-in-command, pointing at Anchor. "Unkai, you're in charge of the watchtower. Take 2 people each. Tom, Lancaster, you two are in charge of mounting some sort of counterattack to drive them off once our air support gets here. Don't want them deciding it's worth it to do a run on us before they bolt. Major Jordan, any idea what Victoria's planning?" "She will not abandon the caves when Glira and Jack should be back before she can even get here. It could be a diversion. I'm sorry." "Right," the captain replied clearly, trying very hard not to curse that particular piece of news. "Doesn't matter, the Blues should be back soon. Apuma, kids in the Grand Hall ready to fall back, whichever way that we may be forced. Heron, distribute what guns and other stuff we have. Tom, just help him a bit with that, would you?" Tom just nodded. He could do that, no problem. "Shiva, Ray, make ready to lock and bar every door in case we need to start falling back. Maybe see about a few barricades. We'll be falling downwards if possible. I don't want to give them the armory." The captain nodded to the very nervous-looking Ray. "Don't worry, just hide behind Shiva," Heron said, likely hoping to brighten the mood just a little. "You are safe with me," the smith chuckled, stamping her halberd on the ground. "Why isn't Jackie here? She needs to test her new armor." "Armor won't stop Dragon's fire," Marko replied dismissively, clearly having little time for their banter. "I know," Shiva all but growled, her demeanor flipping like a coin, eyes glaring at him with a gaze that could probably kill right now. The captain looked over at her and simply nodded before scampering off down the stairs with Anchor. "I guess it's time to fight for what's worth fighting for, eh?" Lancaster added in a very meek voice, Tom turning to look at her. "Yup, and I'd prefer not dying for it. Let's tip the scales a bit."